Elif lived alone in an old creaky house. The house, a family heirloom, was filled with dusty antiques and the scent of bygone days. Among these relics, one item held a strange appeal, drawing Elif's gaze, a large ornate mirror that stood in her bedroom. Its silver was tarnished, its glass aged, but it possessed a magnetism that drew Elif in. Unbeknownst to Elif, this antique harbored a dark secret, a trapped spirit clawing to break free. Elif found herself drawn to the mirror, especially at night. There was an unsettling energy in the mirror, a sense of something unseen watching her from the other side. Elif dismissed it as her imagination, a product of old houses and creaking floorboards. But deep down, a seed of unease had been planted. It was only a matter of time before that seed blossomed into full-blown terror. Every night, Elif followed the same routine. She'd settle in with a book, turn off the lights, and try to ignore the unsettling presence she felt in the room. But sleep was always a fickle mistress in that old house. Every night, without fail, Elif would wake up at exactly 2:22 a.m. Drawn by an unseen force, she would rise from her bed and walk towards the antique mirror. It was as if something was calling her, pulling her towards it. Each step towards the mirror amplified the unsettling feeling in her stomach. She knew she shouldn't look at the reflection, but she couldn't resist its pull. Tonight, as Elif stood before the mirror, she noticed something strange. Lost in thought, she caught a discrepancy as she gazed at her reflection. She raised her hand to brush a stray hair from her face, but her reflection didn't move. It stood there, frozen, a warped imitation of her own image. A cold, sharp fear coursed through her veins. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat in her chest. This wasn't a trick of the light, a figment of a sleepy imagination. Something was terribly wrong. The reflection in the mirror wasn't her own. As Elif watched, paralyzed with fear, the face in the mirror began to change. It slowly morphed, its features twisting into something grotesque and inhuman. The eyes, once a familiar brown, burned into the depths of her soul, turning a malevolent red. A low growl emanated from the mirror, filling the room, making her hair stand on end. Elif stumbled, her breath catching in her throat. This wasn't a nightmare, this was real. The being in the mirror clawed at the glass, its long, shadowy fingers scraping against the surface, struggling to break free. Terrified, Elif began researching the history of the house and the mysterious mirror. Local legend spoke of a young woman who had lived in the house years ago. She had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only whispers and speculation. Some said she ran away, others whispered of foul play, but the most unsettling tale spoke of a mirror, a cursed object that stole souls. The realization hit Elif like a bolt of ice. The mirror in her bedroom was no ordinary antique. It was a portal, a trap, and she was caught in its web. Night after night, the being in the mirror grew stronger, its influence over Elif increasing. She tried to get rid of the mirror, to break it, to remove it from the house, but to no avail. It was as if the mirror had a life of its own, a malevolent will holding it in place, and every night at precisely 2:22 a.m., she would find herself staring into the eyes of the creature trapped within. The being in the mirror began to speak to Elif, its voice a guttural whisper that seemed to bypass her ears and enter her mind directly. It promised her power, knowledge, and an escape from her lonely life, but at a price, her soul. The being's promises were seductive, its whispers like honeyed poison. Elif found herself drawn to its words, tempted by the power it offered. She was lonely, isolated in the old house. The creature in the mirror, though twisted and sinister, offered companionship. One night, as Elif stood before the mirror, she noticed her reflection changing. It was subtle at first, a slight shift in her features, a darkening of her eyes. But as the nights passed, the transformation became more pronounced. She was becoming the being in the mirror, and it was becoming her. With dawning horror, Elif realized she was no longer in control. The being was possessing her, consuming her soul, her identity. The line between real and reflected was blurring, and soon there would be no Elif, only the being wearing her skin. One night, driven to desperation, Elif made a decision. As the clock ticked past 2:22 a.m., she stood before the mirror and defied the being. She would no longer be its prisoner. She would break free from its grasp, even if it cost her everything. The battle was long and terrifying, a struggle between two souls trapped in a mirrored cage. But Elif fought with the ferocity of someone clinging to their very being. The house shook, objects flew across the room, the air crackled with a strange energy. Then, as suddenly as it began, it was over. The mirror lay shattered on the floor, the being gone, retreated to whatever dark corner of the world it had come from. But victory came at a price. Elif was never seen again. Some whisper that she escaped, finally free from the mirror's curse. Others say she was consumed, her soul trapped within the shattered glass for eternity. All that remained was the broken mirror and a lingering sense of unease, a chilling reminder that some reflections are best left undisturbed.